Good afternoon, YouTube. I'm currently at the Love's truck stop in Walnut, Mississippi. I just left a pickup in Iuka. It's Iuka, Mississippi, where I picked up a bunch of steel at a steel mill. I picked up a bunch of steel sheets, and I am taking them to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Had a little bit of complications picking up these steel. I was at my shipper. I arrived, and they got me loaded within a pretty decent amount of time. But then they informed me that the very most bottom piece of steel was damaged, and that they needed to take the load off so they can fix that bottom piece of steel. It was first shift that loaded me, and then they left, and second shift came in to unload the steel and make the necessary repairs and reload me. All the while he was complaining that this should have never been loaded because you could see the damage from a mile away, and he definitely was not lying. It was a very crumpled piece of the corner of this steel sheet, and it definitely was something that was not hidden. So I told the guy that was unloading me that they were also concerned about some other bends and some of this other sheet metal. Basically, the sheet metal was in 6 bundles. Each bundle had 11 sheets, and one bundle had 8 sheets. So he did his thing. He unloaded me and got the damaged bundle and took it off to another part of the warehouse to fix it. Comes back, he loads me up, and I get out of there. I spent probably about 3.5 hours there or so, when I should have really only spent about an hour. During that time, all of my clocks ran out, and I had to use my split clocks, which basically means I can drive for a little bit of time that I was able to save while I was off duty before, and I used that time to get to a truck stop. So I got to the closest truck stop, which was about 20 miles away, maybe, in Corinth, Corinth, Mississippi. It was actually a very nice truck stop. It was kind of small. Not a whole lot of parking. Had room for about 25 trucks. But the parking spaces were actually really close to the building, and they had very inexpensive showers. I decided I needed to take a shower, and they only charge $5 for their shower if you don't get fuel. If you get fuel, it's $1. A lot of places charge $15 for a shower, but it's free if you get fuel. So anyway, I take my shower, come back out to the truck, and I decide that I should probably weigh my truck in the morning to make sure I'm not overweight. So I ended up finding a scale the next morning that was about another 30 miles away, and I weighed my truck, and sure enough, I was 1,000 pounds over my gross weight. I believe the 1,000 pounds over, if you get caught on your gross weight, is $1 a pound. So that could get very expensive for me if I chose to continue on my load. I called my broker back this morning, and he told me to go back and get the load reworked. So I drive the 50 miles back to the steel mill, and I get backed into a bay probably within an hour of being there. You know, not such a bad time considering there was a line. And I get told that apparently the second shift person did not do all the repairs that was supposed to have been done. So lo and behold, I spent another 2.5 or 3 hours there when I should have only really spent about 45 minutes there. So I finally got on my way. They just went ahead and removed an entire bundle, which makes me go from about 48,000 pounds of cargo to about 41,000 pounds of cargo, and getting me to within my weight range. I do drive an all steel flatbed, which is a lot heavier than the aluminum flatbeds, which is what put me over my gross weight. So I finally got on the road and notified my customer in Tulsa that I won't be there now until tomorrow morning. Originally, I was supposed to be there at 9 o'clock this morning, and then due to the complications, it turned into between noon and 2 p.m., which I have to be there by 3. And then because of the overweight and reworking the load, that turns it into not being there until the next morning. So, but I'm finally on the road, and well, that's trucking, you know, I mean, it's what you got to deal with. So that's my little tidbit on trucking today. I think for today's case, I'm going to talk about me keeping an innocent man from being booked into the county jail for an aggravated battery case. So I was acting as the on-call detective, and basically when I'm on call, or when I was on call, I would get paid an extra 2 hours of straight time every day that I was on call, which was usually about 7 days. So I would get 14 hours extra of straight time on my check. That's even if I don't get called in. If I get called in, I get that 14 hours of straight time plus any overtime I get, which is paid out at time and a half. And my overtime starts the second they call me. But anyway, the rules for that is, since they're paying me extra, I am not allowed to leave the county. I'm not allowed to drink any alcohol. I have to respond at any time of the day or night. And I have 2 hours to respond. Usually I was responding within 45 minutes to an hour. And that's getting a call at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning while you're in bed, and getting up, taking a quick shower, getting dressed, and making the drive to work. I would usually be there within 45 to 60 minutes. So anyway, I get this call to assist patrol with an aggravated battery case. Now, aggravated battery is when one person assaults or hits another person with enough force that it could cause great bodily harm, or if it is done with a weapon. In this case, the victim was hit in the head with a wrench and went to the hospital. The victim was intoxicated and also was unable to give officers a statement, but basically they were able to piece together that one friend hit another friend in the head with a wrench, and so they arrested the suspect, who was friends with the victim, and transported him to the police station to be questioned. In that, they also transported the victim's wife, who was a witness to the incident. Now, normally, I'm not a big fan of getting called in for these kind of cases because there are just not many moving parts. These are the kind of cases that I would have handled by myself when I was a patrol officer. The only thing I might do is notify a detective that I am working this case, just to basically, for lack of better words, get their blessing, so that way when somebody asked me why I didn't call the detective, I would be able to explain to them that I am confident enough to work these types of cases and that I did notify a detective and got their approval. So anyway, I get called in to work this case, and I don't even go to the hospital because the victim is unable to give a statement, and officers had already taken pictures of the victim at the hospital and did all that part of the investigation. The only thing that had to be done at this point was attempt to speak with the suspect of the case and and also speak with the wife of the victim. So anyway, I go into the suspect. I read the suspect his Miranda Warnings, which is the whole you have the right to remain silent stuff. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. All that. Yeah, and I read it from a card. And I would read it from a card every single time, just so that way it was a habit, and I could testify that I actually read it from a card and didn't try to do it from memory. So I was able to recite everything on my card. So anyway, the suspect in the case, he invoked his right to an attorney and basically told me, he invoked his right to be silent. Basically told me he didn't want to give a statement. If you've seen one of my previous videos, you'll understand that I don't take that personal. There are some cops that might think that people have something to hide when they are choosing to not give a statement. Me, no, I don't think that. It's their right, and I don't take it personal. And if they choose to not want to talk to me, then that's their right, that's their choice, and I have absolutely no opinion about it, nor do I have any right to second guess as to why they don't want to give a statement. So since he doesn't want to give a statement, after he tells me, after he tells me he doesn't want to give a statement, I tell him that I'm going to go ahead and book him in the jail for aggravated battery. This was a common theme for me. Whenever I'd get done talking with somebody, I would tell them what the next step I'm going to do is. That might be go to my desk and spend the next half hour or so doing some paperwork to get you booked in the jail, or it might be doing some research and coming back to interview you some more, or it might be to decide whether or not I'm going to book you in the jail at all. So anyway, I told him that I was going to book him in the jail and I would be back with him shortly. Well, during that time, I decide I want to speak with the wife of the victim. The wife starts explaining what she witnessed, and basically what it was her husband, who is the victim at this point, was assaulting her, and the friend, who was the suspect at this point, attempted to intervene. The husband picked up a stick and hit the friend in the head, and apparently caused a laceration to his head, and the friend then picked up a wrench and hit the suspect in his head, which incapacitated him. And the incapacitation maybe had something to do with the wrench, maybe also had something to do with the alcohol, probably both of them. His level of intoxication plus getting hit in the head with the wrench incapacitated him, and to the point that he was unable to give a statement. So after getting a little bit more information from the wife, I decide that my suspect may be actually the victim in this case. Now, I'm going to preface this with saying that when somebody invokes their Miranda rights, there are a lot of people, or most detectives and a lot of attorneys, and probably even most attorneys, that will tell you that you have to stop talking to them at that moment and you can no longer talk to them. I don't agree with that, because Miranda specifically states in the case, it specifically states that it has to be a custodial interrogation. So basically, you have to be wanting to, in order for Miranda to even apply, you have to talk to them about the case from which they are actually in custody for. So once I decided that he may be a victim in this, that's a whole separate case. That's a whole separate ordeal. He is now a victim. So I go back to him and I explain to him that I understand that he invoked his Miranda rights, but I spoke with his friend's wife, and the version that she told me makes it appear that he is actually the victim and not her husband. And I asked if he would like to talk to me about being a victim of a crime. And I told him that we can keep the conversation limited to just that, and that we will not talk about the part where he hit the guy back. He agreed that he would speak with me about this and that he feels that he's a victim. And basically, he filled me in on what the wife had told me, the same thing on what the wife told me, that, you know, he tried to intervene in the domestic, and the suspect, or the friend, hit him in the head with a stick, and then in turn he hit him in the head with a wrench. And sure enough, the guy had a laceration that had since stopped bleeding. By the time I made contact with him, he wasn't bleeding and he was cleaned up. But sure enough, he had a laceration to his head, and that laceration likely needed stitches. At that point, I told the officers that I was assisting the case with that they needed to go to the hospital for me and wait for this guy to be discharged, so they can arrest him to bring him to the police station. And I explained the situation to them, because usually when I tell people, hey, go back to the hospital and arrest that person, they get a little bit of a puzzled look on their face as to why they're arresting the victim. Because at that point, that's all they knew that person is, the only thing they knew that person was the victim. That was a mouthful. But anyway, and I always would emphasize that they wait until that person is discharged. I do this because if we go take custody of a person while they're in the hospital, the city may then be on the hook for their hospital bill. So I tell them, wait until he is discharged and then arrest him and bring him to the police station. So they arrest this guy, bring him to the police station, and sometime during all this, I end up releasing the other guy. Told him that he should probably go to the hospital and get stitched up, and I believe he actually did. So I end up interviewing the husband, and I actually had a history with the husband. I've talked to him on cases before, and he's one of these people that would talk to me. So the husband, sorry about that, my drink fell out of its cup holder, but I caught it. So the husband ended up telling me that yes, he was having a domestic with his wife, and that the friend attempted to intervene, and he hit the friend in the head with the stick, and then the friend hit him back. Well, this guy was something special. Basically, he did not see, or it seemed to me anyway, that he did not see anything wrong with, quote, disciplining his wife. I don't recall if he used the term disciplining, but that's just kind of how I would describe it. I explained to him that he cannot be doing this, and I mean, the things he was doing to her were just outrageous. I don't remember what he was doing at that point, but he told me that at one point he had doused her with lighter fluid and tried to light her on fire. Or, I'm going to backpedal a little bit. I know he doused her with lighter fluid, and he either tried to light her on fire or made it look like he was going to light her on fire just to scare her. I don't remember which one of those two, but both of them are extremely bad. Okay? Horrible. After talking with him, and he just would go on and on about the things that he just thought he was okay with doing. And I basically asked him, or not basically, but I remember asking him, if he loved his wife. I asked him, do you love your wife? And he said he did. And I told him, you need to divorce her or you're going to kill her. If you love her, and I mean, it was evident that he really did love her, but I told him, if you don't divorce her, you're going to end up killing her. I seem to remember this actually got his attention, and we talked about that for a little bit, and that's what needed to happen. I ended up booking him in on the aggravated battery case, but I also think I was able to build 2 other cases for domestic battery against his wife, and booked him in for all 3 cases. And I think one of them may have been the lighter fluid case, and I think the other one was maybe he put a billiard ball in a sock and either hit her or tried to hit her or made her think that he was going to hit her. But in any case, I was able to put together some domestic cases. I did speak with her further about the ordeal, and I told her the same thing about getting a divorce, that if she doesn't divorce him, he's going to end up killing her one of these days. I made sure that she had had access to every advocacy group that I could think of. Something that I would do back then, or do as a detective, would be to provide them with information to contact the Battered Women's Task Force. I would give them information to contact, I would tell them about battered women's shelters. Battered women's shelters are a huge secret where I'm from. I end up knowing where one of them was just because I had to go work a case there, but they're so secretive that I never knew where they were at. I mean, they're really secretive about where their battered women's shelters are. And basically what they do is they own a kind of a larger, older house that's divided up into apartments, and if they have an extra room or a bed or whatever, they'll let a victim of domestic violence, usually a woman, hence the name Battered Women's Shelter, they would let them stay there while they got them hooked up with other sources, with other groups such as the YWCA, which would help them with their court cases and help them get restraining orders and protection orders and things like that. So I would have gotten her help with all of that, and then like I said, I booked him in the jail. And with his criminal history, I think he did a pretty significant amount of time of prison, because aggravated battery is actually a pretty serious crime. If I just recalling from memory, I think that a level 5 aggravated battery would be pretty significant for him with his criminal history, because like I said, he did have a pretty good history of committing crimes, or at least being convicted or pleading to crimes. So that's my story about basically keeping a guy out of jail, because patrol, if they would have just worked the case like that, they may have asked him if he wanted to give a statement, and when he refused, with what they know, they would have booked him into jail, because at that time they only knew that the friend hit the husband in the head with a wrench. That's the only thing that anybody knew. They didn't know about the domestics. They didn't know about the past domestics. They didn't know that the person who, the friend that hit the husband in the head with the wrench, they didn't know it was self-defense. They didn't know any of that. And it's not up to us to really decide whether somebody's self-defense is within the legal boundaries. That would be up to the DA's office, which is why I limited my scope of interviewing this friend to him being a victim, and did not get specific information about him hitting the guy in the head with the wrench. So anyway, that's my case for the day, and I think I will go ahead and get off here for now. Right now I am in Lamar, Mississippi, and like I said, I'm headed towards Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you guys like my video, don't hesitate to hit that like button, share my videos, get them out there. Give me some criticism as well. You know, if you got something to say, let me know. You know, if there's anything that you would like to see changed. One of the things I probably won't do is I won't use people's real names. Because I still like to respect people's privacy. But I'll do my best of explaining their roles and who they might be. But I won't. I will try to refrain from using real names. But if you have any constructive criticism, or you want to give me a pat on the back because you like what I'm saying, or you're enjoying my videos, let me know. You guys have a good day. Bye.